The Vorthan Empire had conquered 17-star systems in the past decade. Their military machine was precise, overwhelming, and seemingly unstoppable. Until they met humanity. Commander Zekthul reviewed the battle reports from the Kepler 442 system with growing unease. 3 of his best cruiser squadrons had been decimated by what appeared to be a single human fighter craft. The tactical recordings showed impossible maneuvers, weapons fire that defied known physics, and piloting skills that bordered on supernatural. Sir, his aide approached hesitantly. The survivors keep mentioning the same thing. They say there was a call sign transmitted on all frequencies during the engagement. What call sign? Ghost 7. Zekthul's mandibles clicked in irritation. Ghost 7. That designation had appeared in 17 different battle reports across 6 systems. Always the same pattern. Impossible odds, devastating losses for whoever faced this pilot. And then, silence. No pursuit, no gloating communications, just efficient, terrifying combat followed by disappearance. On the human colony of New Sarajevo, Sarah Martinez was just finishing her shift at the mining operation when the alert sirens began wailing. The familiar dread settled in her stomach as she looked up at the sky. 3 Vorthan destroyers hung in the atmosphere like dark omens, their hulls bristling with weapon arrays. The evacuation protocols were clear, but Sarah knew they wouldn't be fast enough. The Vorthans didn't take prisoners from mining worlds. They strip-mined planets and eliminated the populations to make room for their own colonies. She grabbed her daughter's hand and ran toward the emergency bunkers, knowing it was probably futile. Then, the sky lit up with weapons fire. A single human fighter, sleek and deadly, danced between the massive Vorthan ships like a predator among prey. Sarah had never seen anything like it. The pilot performed maneuvers that should have liquefied any human pilot under the G-forces involved. The fighter's weapons carved through Vorthan shields like they were made of paper. Within minutes, all 3 destroyers were burning hulks falling toward the planet's surface. The mysterious fighters circled once, transmitted a brief message to the ground, and vanished into hyperspace. This is Ghost 7. Colony is secure. Stay strong. The voice was female, young, and carried a weight that seemed impossible for someone so young to bear. Dr. Elena Vasquez had been studying the phenomenon for months. As the head of Human Fleet Intelligence, she had access to every combat report, every sensor reading, every scrap of data about the pilot known only as Ghost 7. What she found defied explanation. The fighter appeared to be a modified Terran interceptor, but the modifications were unlike anything in human military databases. The power signatures suggested an energy source that was theoretically impossible. The weapon systems fired coherent plasma at temperatures that should have melted the ship's own hull. Most impossibly, the pilot survived acceleration forces that would kill any unaugmented human. Director, her assistant knocked on her office door. We've received another transmission. Elena looked up from her files. From Ghost 7? Yes, ma'am. This time it was directed specifically to Fleet Command. Elena's heart raced as she activated the message. The voice was the same one that had become legend across human space. Calm, professional, but carrying an undertone of something that might have been profound sadness. To Fleet Command. I know you're looking for me. Stop. You won't find me until I choose to be found. I'm not AWOL. I'm not a rogue operative. I'm doing what needs to be done. Protect the colonies. I'll handle the rest. Ghost 7 out. Elena stared at the communications panel long after the message ended. Whoever this pilot was, she had technology that surpassed anything the human fleet possessed. But more troubling was something she couldn't quantify, a sense that this Ghost 7 was operating under some kind of terrible burden. The research continued for weeks. Elena cross-referenced every missing pilot, every experimental program, every classified project that might have produced someone with these capabilities. Nothing matched. It was as if Ghost 7 had simply materialized from nowhere with technology decades ahead of anything humanity had developed. Meanwhile, the reports kept coming in. Ghost 7 had single-handedly broken a siege at the Centauri mining collective. She had destroyed an entire Vorthan supply convoy in the Vega system. Each engagement followed the same pattern: impossible odds, devastating effectiveness, and immediate departure. The Vorthan Empire was beginning to take notice. Their military commanders spoke in hushed tones about the death shadow that stalked their fleets. Some refused to engage human forces at all, fearing that Ghost 7 might be present. The mere possibility of her involvement was becoming a strategic advantage for humanity. But Elena couldn't shake the feeling that there was something deeply wrong with the whole situation. No one fought with that level of skill and technology while remaining completely anonymous. No one carried that much sadness in their voice without reason. And no one took on impossible odds again and again without eventually making a mistake. She was afraid that when Ghost 7 finally did make that inevitable mistake, humanity would lose its greatest weapon. Worse, they would lose someone who might have been much more than a weapon if anyone had bothered to find out who she really was. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A damaged Vorthan communications drone had been recovered from one of Ghost 7's battle sites. The alien encryption was sophisticated, but Elena's team eventually cracked it. What they found made Elena's blood run cold. The Vorthans weren't just afraid of Ghost 7. They were actively hunting her. They had deployed specialized tracking ships, developed new sensor arrays specifically designed to detect her unique energy signature. They had put a massive bounty on her capture, alive. Whatever Ghost 7 was, the Vorthans wanted her badly enough to dedicate significant resources to finding her. The final piece of the puzzle came from an unlikely source, a merchant captain named Rodriguez who ran supplies to the outer colonies. He claimed to have encountered Ghost 7 during a Vorthan raid on his convoy. "She saved us," he told Elena during the debriefing. But there was something wrong with her ship. It was flickering in and out of phase, like it wasn't entirely real. And when she transmitted to us, her voice was different. Younger. She sounded like she was maybe 16 or 17 years old. 16? Elena felt her stomach drop. "Are you certain? My daughter's about that age. I know what a teenager sounds like when they're trying to sound older than they are. This girl, whoever she is, she's just a kid. A kid with the deadliest ship in known space." Elena closed the file and stared out her office window at the stars. Somewhere out there, a teenager was fighting humanity's war single-handedly, using technology that shouldn't exist, carrying burdens that no child should bear. She had no name that anyone knew, but her call sign had become the most feared sound in Vorthan space. The question that haunted Elena was simple. Who was she really? And what had been done to her to make her into this impossibly effective, impossibly alone warrior? The answers, Elena suspected, would change everything humanity thought they knew about their own capabilities, their own ethics, and their own responsibility to protect their children even in the darkest times of war. Captain James Park had been in the human fleet for 23 years. He had seen battles that would give most people nightmares for life. He had commanded ships through impossible odds, and brought his crews home alive when everyone expected them to die. But nothing in his experience had prepared him for the emergency transmission that reached his ship while patrolling the outer rim of the Tau Ceti system. "Any human fleet vessel, this is Ghost 7. I have a problem. My ship is failing, and I need immediate assistance. Transmitting coordinates now." Park stared at his communications officer. Every person in human space knew that call sign. Ghost 7, the phantom pilot who had turned the tide of the war almost single-handedly. The warrior who appeared from nowhere, destroyed entire enemy fleets, and vanished without explanation. And now she was asking for help. "Sir," his tactical officer called out. "I'm reading massive energy fluctuations at those coordinates. Whatever's happening out there, it's big." Park didn't hesitate. "All hands to battle stations. Set course for those coordinates, maximum burn, and send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them we may have found Ghost 7. The journey took 6 hours at full acceleration. What they found defied every expectation Park had built up about the mysterious pilot. Ghost 7's ship hung dead in space, its hull flickering between solid matter and something that looked like translucent energy. The vessel itself was beautiful in a terrifying way, curves and angles that suggested both organic growth and precise engineering. It was clearly based on human fighter design, but evolved far beyond anything Park had seen. "Life signs?" Park asked. "One human aboard, sir. But the readings are strange. Almost like the pilot is partially phased with the ship itself." Park suited up personally to investigate. As his shuttle approached the damaged fighter, he could see through the transparent sections of the hull. Inside, connected to the ship by dozens of biomechanical interfaces, was a young woman who couldn't have been older than 18. She was unconscious, suspended in some kind of fluid medium, her body covered in scars that suggested extensive surgical modification. Cables and organic conduits ran from the ship's systems directly into her spine, her brain stem, her nervous system. She wasn't just piloting the ship. She was the ship, in some fundamental way that made Park feel sick to understand. "Dear God," he whispered. "What did they do to you?" "The rescue operation took 4 hours. Park's medical team had never seen anything like the integration between pilot and machine. Removing the young woman from her ship required delicate work to separate biological systems that had grown together over what appeared to be years. When she finally woke up in the medical bay, her eyes held an intelligence and sadness that belonged to someone much older. She looked around the sterile environment with confusion, as if she had forgotten what normal human spaces looked like. "Where's my ship?" were her first words. "Safe," Park told her. "We managed to get it into our cargo bay. Our engineers are working on repairs, but we need to understand the technology first. More importantly, we need to understand what happened to you." She tried to sit up and winced. Without the ship's support systems, she was clearly in significant pain. "My name is Alex. Alexandra Chun. I was 14 when they took me." "Who took you?" "The Aurora Project. It was a Black Ops program, started when the war with the Vorthans began going badly. They needed a pilot who could interface directly with experimental technology. Someone young enough that their nervous system could adapt to the biomechanical integration." Park felt his anger building. "They experimented on children? They called it voluntary enhancement. My parents had died in the first Vorthan attacks on Earth. I had no family, no guardian to refuse consent. When they showed me what the Vorthans had done to our worlds, when they told me I could help stop it from happening to other families, I agreed." She looked down at her hands, which Park now noticed bore small scars where neural interfaces had been implanted. "I was so stupid. I thought it would be like the movies. They'd give me a better fighter plane, and I'd be a hero. What did they actually do?" Alex was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was flat, clinical. "They replaced 30% of my nervous system with quantum biomechanical interfaces. They surgically implanted reaction enhancers that let me process information thousands of times faster than normal humans. They gave me a ship that bonds with my biological systems so completely that when I'm connected to it, I can't tell where I end and it begins." She looked up at Park, and he saw tears in her eyes. "But the worst part is that they designed it so I can't survive long without the ship. The modifications require constant support from the quantum systems. I'm literally dying when I'm not connected to it." Park sat down heavily. "How long do you have?" "Maybe a week. Maybe less. That's why I had to call for help when the ship started failing. I'm not just a pilot, Captain Park. I'm a weapon they built out of a child. And if the weapon breaks, the child dies too." The implications hit Park like a physical blow. This young woman had been fighting humanity's war for years, alone, knowing that she couldn't survive without constantly risking her life in combat. She had saved countless colonies, destroyed enemy fleets, turned the tide of the war, all while carrying the knowledge that she had been transformed into something that could never have a normal life. "There has to be a way to reverse the process," he said. Alex shook her head. "I've been searching for 4 years. The scientists who created the Aurora Project are all dead. The Vorthans targeted them specifically once they realized what the project had produced. All the research data was destroyed. I'm the only one left who knows how any of it works. Then, we'll figure it out together. My medical team, Fleet Command, every scientist in human space if necessary." "Captain," she said gently, "you don't understand. I don't want to be cured." Park stared at her. "What? Every day I stay alive, I can save more people. Every battle I fight brings the war closer to ending. Yes, they turn me into a weapon, but that weapon is the only thing standing between humanity and extinction." She met his eyes steadily. "I've accepted what I am. What I need now is for someone to understand why I do what I do, and maybe help me do it better." Over the following days, as Alex recovered enough strength to reconnect with her ship, Park learned more about the scope of her sacrifice. She had been fighting alone for 4 years, living in the spaces between battles, never able to form connections with other humans because her mere existence was classified beyond their security clearance. She had taught herself advanced physics, military strategy, and xenobiology from data she scavenged from abandoned research stations. She had upgraded her ship using technology salvaged from defeated enemies. She had even learned to hack Vorthan communication networks to anticipate their attacks. "I monitor refugee channels," she told Park one evening as they watched stars through the observation deck. "When I hear families talking about their children, about normal lives, it reminds me what I'm fighting for. I may never have those things, but I can make sure other people do." "You're 17 years old," Park said quietly. "You should be worried about school, about dating, about what career you want to pursue. Instead, you're carrying the weight of an entire species' survival." Alex smiled, and for a moment she looked like the teenager she should have been. "Maybe when the war's over, I'll go back to school." study art or literature, or something completely useless. Assuming I'm still alive. You will be, Park said firmly. And, maybe by then, we'll have found a way to give you a choice about what you want to be, instead of what you were made into. When Alex's ship was repaired, and she prepared to leave, Park made a decision that would change both their lives. I'm coming with you. What? Not in your ship. I know that's not possible. But, my crew and we can provide support. Intelligence gathering, supply runs, backup in case something goes wrong. You've been alone too long, Alex. Let us help. She stared at him for a long moment, and Park saw hope flicker in her eyes for the first time since they'd met. The Aurora Project protocols say I'm supposed to maintain operational security by working alone. The Aurora Project is gone, Park said. You're not their weapon anymore. You're Alex Chun, and you get to decide how you want to fight this war. When they jumped to hyperspace together, Alex and her impossible biomechanical fighter, Park, and his crew in their conventional cruiser, something fundamental shifted in the balance of the war. Ghost 7 was no longer just a mysterious legend. She was a person, with a name, with people who cared about her survival. And that, Park realized, made her infinitely more dangerous to humanity's enemies than she had ever been when she was alone. The Vorthans were about to learn that humans fought differently when they were protecting not just abstract principles, but specific people they loved. And Alex Chun, the girl with no name who had become Ghost 7, was about to discover that she was worth protecting not just as a weapon, but as a human being who deserved to live to see the peace she was fighting to create. Admiral Chen Zhao had never expected to meet his granddaughter under these circumstances. He stood in the briefing room aboard the flagship Indomitable, staring at the young woman who bore his family name, but looked like she had walked out of a science fiction nightmare. The biomechanical interfaces visible along her arms and neck told the story of what had been done to her, but her eyes told the story of what she had done with it. Grandfather, Alex said quietly. It was the first time she had seen family in 4 years. The first time she had been in the same room as someone who remembered her as a child rather than as a weapon. My God, Xiaoli, he whispered, using her childhood name. What have they done to my little star? The reunion was interrupted by urgent tactical alerts. The Vorthans had made a desperate gambit. They were launching a massive assault on Earth itself, throwing everything they had left into one final push to break humanity's spirit by destroying their homeworld. Intelligence suggested they had developed new weapons specifically designed to counter Ghost 7's abilities. They know you're working with us now, Admiral Zhao told the assembled officers. Captain Park's support operations have made Ghost 7 more effective than ever, but it's also revealed that she's not the supernatural force they believed. They think if they can overwhelm her with sheer numbers while targeting Earth, they can end the war in one decisive battle. Alex studied the tactical displays. 300 Vorthan ships, including their newest dreadnoughts equipped with quantum jammers designed to disrupt her ship's phase capabilities. It was more firepower than she had ever faced, directed at the one target she could never allow to fall. I can handle it, she said simply. Alex, Captain Park stepped forward. He had become something like a father figure to her over the past months, and she could see the fear in his eyes. This isn't like the Outer Rim battles. They're specifically prepared for you. The quantum jammers will limit your phasing ability, and the sheer number of ships means even you can't be everywhere at once. Alex turned to her grandfather. Sir, I need to ask you for something that goes against every military protocol you've ever followed. What? I need you to trust me completely, and I need you to give every ship in the home fleet the same quantum frequency codes that my ship uses. The room fell silent. What Alex was suggesting was unprecedented. Her ship's quantum signatures were the most closely guarded secret in human space. Sharing them would allow the entire fleet to coordinate with her in ways that had never been possible, but it would also reveal the full extent of the Aurora Project's technology. If we do that, Admiral Zhao said slowly, every ship in the fleet will know exactly what was done to you. There will be no hiding the fact that we turned a child into a living weapon. Good, Alex replied. It's time they knew. But, more importantly, it's time they understood what that weapon can really do when it's not fighting alone. The Battle of Earth began 18 hours later. Alex had spent the intervening time working with the fleet's tactical teams, explaining how her abilities worked, teaching them to coordinate with her quantum phase technology. For the first time since she had become Ghost 7, she wouldn't be fighting as a single unit against overwhelming odds. She would be the spearhead of humanity's entire defensive force. The Vorthan fleet arrived in Earth orbit like a dark storm, their ships blocking out stars. Their quantum jammers activated immediately, filling space with disruptive energy designed to prevent Alex from phasing between dimensions. For a moment, watching the massive enemy force deploy, even Alex felt doubt creep into her mind. Then, Captain Park's voice came over the fleet communication channel. "All ships, this is Resolute. We stand with Ghost 7. We stand with Alex Chun. And today, we show these bastards what happens when humanity protects its own." The battle that followed would be remembered as the moment when human military doctrine changed forever. Instead of Alex fighting alone while other ships provided support, the entire fleet fought as extensions of her abilities. Ships that had been equipped with her quantum frequency codes could phase in and out of normal space in coordination with her movements. Weapons that had been modified with her biomechanical technology could penetrate Vorthan shields that had previously been impenetrable. But the real revelation came when Alex realized that connecting with the entire fleet through the quantum links was healing her. The biomechanical modifications that had been slowly killing her were stabilizing, drawing power not just from her ship, but from the collective will of every human fighting beside her. She could feel them all: Captain Park's steady courage, her grandfather's fierce protectiveness, thousands of pilots and officers who knew her story now and had chosen to stand with the child soldier who had been fighting for their future. For the first time since she was 14, Alex felt like she belonged somewhere. The Vorthans had prepared for Ghost 7, the mysterious lone warrior. They hadn't prepared for Ghost 7 as the living heart of humanity's entire war machine. Their quantum jammers, designed to isolate her, instead became conduits that allowed her to coordinate the largest military formation in human history with perfect precision. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Vorthan fleet was broken, their survivors fleeing toward the outer rim. But, more importantly, something had fundamentally changed in how humans thought about war, technology, and the responsibility they had to their children. In the aftermath, as Earth celebrated its survival and the apparent end of the Vorthan threat, Alex made a decision that surprised everyone who thought they knew her. "I want to resign from active duty," she told Admiral Zhao. "Alex, you're the most effective military asset humanity has ever produced. The war may be over, but there will always be threats that need someone with your abilities." She shook her head. "Grandfather, for 4 years I've been Ghost 7, the weapon they made from your granddaughter. I saved the colonies, I won the war, and I proved that humans can become something more than what we were born to be. But now I want to find out who Alex Chun can become when she's not fighting for everyone else's survival." She gestured to the quantum interface data that still linked her to the fleet. The biomechanical technology doesn't have to be a weapon. With the right development, it could revolutionize medicine, exploration, even education. People could interface directly with computers, share knowledge instantly, experience things that are impossible with unenhanced biology. But, safely, Captain Park interjected. "With choice. Without turning children into weapons." Alex nodded. The Aurora Project happened because desperate people made terrible decisions in desperate times. But we're not desperate anymore. We can take this technology and use it to explore, to heal, to grow, instead of just to fight. Admiral Zhao looked at his granddaughter, scarred, enhanced, bearing the weight of experiences no one her age should have, but still somehow recognizably the curious child who had wanted to see the stars. "What will you do?" "I want to go back to school," Alex said, and her smile was the first truly happy expression anyone had seen from her in years. "I want to study everything I missed while I was being Ghost 7. I want to learn about art and music and literature and philosophy. I want to figure out what kind of person I am when I'm not busy being humanity's sword and shield." She paused, looking out at Earth through the observation window. "And maybe, when I'm ready, I'll work on developing ways to give other people the choice to become something more than human, if they want to. But the choice will be theirs to make when they're adults, with full understanding of what it means." Captain Park smiled. The universe won't know what hit it when Alex Chun shows up wanting to learn everything. The young woman who had been Ghost 7, who had been the nameless weapon that saved humanity, who had been the child soldier carrying the weight of species survival, took a deep breath and made a choice about her future that was entirely her own. "Maybe I'll take a new call sign," she said thoughtfully. "Something that represents who I choose to be, instead of what I was made into." "What did you have in mind?" her grandfather asked. Alex Chun looked out at the stars that had been her battlefield, her prison, and now promised to become her classroom. "How about Explorer 1? It's time to find out what's out there when you're not fighting for your life." And For the first time since she was 14 years old, Alex Chen walked toward a future that belonged entirely to her, carrying knowledge that could transform humanity not through war, but through the boundless curiosity of a young woman who had finally earned the right to discover who she wanted to become. The name Ghost 7 would live forever in the military histories, a legend of what humans could accomplish when they refused to surrender. But the name Alex Chen, Explorer 1, was just beginning her real story. And the galaxy, both human and alien, would soon learn that humanity was even more dangerous when motivated by hope and curiosity than it had ever been when driven by desperation and war.